Hollywood is scrambling as they try to figure out what to do with the writers' strike. When are they going to be able to release the stuff they need to release to make money? They don't know. And that includes the Walt Disney Company. They have reshuffled the entire deck. All their content is changed up. And you won't believe what they're doing with Star Wars. Strap in, folks. It's going to be a fun ride. All right, and we are back today, again, explaining entertainment, keeping you ahead of the culture curve. It's what we do each and every day here on the WDW Pro channel. What an exciting time, and what a fun time we're going to be having in this video as we discuss the reshuffling of Disney's entire deck. They are scrambling with the writer's strike. Well, as we get ready to do this, if you like content like it, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and you can stick it to the algorithms when you click it. We're talking about the notification bell. Joining me to chat through all of the changes is the one and only Jonas J. Campbell of thatparkplace.com and everything woke about. Jonas, welcome back.
Hey, good to be here. Nothing more exciting than going through the calendar.
That's right. Well, Calendar Man, here we go. This by Rebecca Rubin out of Variety. Disney dates new Star Wars movie, shifts Deadpool 3, and entire Marvel slate delays Avatar sequels through 2031? James Cameron, you better be taking your Metamucil and sticking in there, pal. Hit the gym. Disney is shaking up its release calendar, adding a new Star Wars movie and Moana live-action adaptation to the schedule and delaying the next 3 Avatar movies by a year. At this rate, the 5th trip to Pandora will be released in 2031. That's in 8 years for anyone who wants to know the math. Among the highlights of the overhaul, a live-action Moana will be released on June 27th, 2025. They're aiming for the Independence Day week. Perhaps it'll do better than Indiana Jones. Deadpool 3 has moved up from November 8th, 2024 to May 3rd, 2024. And folks, there's a big reason for that, and we're about to get into it. An untitled Star Wars movie is debuting on December 18th, 2026. I'll sell you a bridge if you believe it. Avatar 3 has shifted to December 19th, 2025. Avatar 4 to December 21st, 2029. And Avatar 5 to the same time frame, 2031. Based on this timeline, the final Avatar movie is coming 22 years after the original 2009 blockbuster. All right, let's deal with this part first. Jonas, here's my thesis on some of this.
It's ridiculous.
First of all, I don't believe anything that is in here because this is round one of attempting to navigate the issue of the writer's strike. They cannot produce content because the writers are on strike, and the writers are needed to be there to adjust during filming, so they're stuck. So all of this is a bunch of nonsense. Let's just say that. This is just Disney trying to get a slot. But here's the big one, Jonas, and I can't wait to hear from you on it. The situation with Deadpool. Here's what I think is going on. We have said over and over on this channel what an amazing thing is going to be that from Guardians of the Galaxy, which we believe now will break even, but no more. But from Guardians of the Galaxy all the way until the end of next year, we believed that Marvel could go without a single profit. A single movie, every single movie from that point forward would be a flop all the way until Deadpool 3 holiday 2024. I think that was a PR disaster that they could not permit to occur, and that's why they have to move up Deadpool 3. What do you think?
I think you're probably right. I think this actually puts Deadpool in a lot of danger as far as the content of the film. If it's a rated R Marvel comedy and they want it to be a summer tentpole, I almost said tentpool. I
get it.
I think that actually puts them in danger of them lowering the content rating on the movie. Now, I'm not much for rated R comedies myself, but that's one of the unique features of that particular franchise. So if all of the financial futures of the company are pressed onto this one singular piece of content and it has the most chance for success, I think that puts a lot of pressure on Ryan Reynolds, and he'll have to balance out meddlesome studio executives from the highest levels of the company. You've
got to think that this is going to rush that, and that's their best chance at a success. And now they're going to rush it at Marvel. For Marvel, this is insane levels of speed to try to rush this thing out the door. We're talking a year, less than a year from now. they're going to be releasing this. They only announced this officially, what, 6, 7, 8 months ago?
And they are Ryan Reynolds, as I understand it, is not even allowed to improvise on set until the writer's strike is over. So I think
that'll go well.
They might have taken their secret weapon and said, you know what, we're just going to holster this, and we're going to hope that people just show up for no reason.
Well, it also means it's nonsense. I mean, they need to get the slot. We know that. We know that they have to have the slot, and they have to have it reserved for the theaters. But in terms of can they do it, well, if he can't even improvise without the writers, and the writers are still on strike, and we don't see an end in sight, there's no way. There's just no way. It could be a very drought-fested 2024. There may not be many movies to go see. There may not be many shows to go watch. The cutting cadence may be worse than I had anticipated. What do you think?
I think you're right. And we'll be hearing a lot about the recovery from the writer's strike over the next year of earnings calls.
Let's hope. Let's hope. It could be that they're still suffering from it if they can't come to some kind of conclusion. It could grow. This could be the Hollywood apocalypse that we predicted. Then also, we've got the Avatar stuff. This is now being pushed out to ludicrous levels. Reference to Spaceballs intended there. All right, let's go to the next paragraphs, though. Other changes include a massive Marvel reshuffling. Captain America, Brave New World, by the way, the name changed there because they needed to get away from the negative PR that was going to be associated with the prior name, which was feeding into the idea that Disney is trying to socioculturally shift the world.
It doesn't help that every YouTube video that has the title of your movie in it included a YouTube reference talking about, well, I won't even say the name of it because I don't want YouTube to trigger it, but the NWO. It was also the name of the first episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Well, here's what's interesting about all of this, Jonas, and this is the reason people come to this channel. We now believe that they have no hope in this. What a fun thing to say. They have no hope in this. And here's how we know it. They're moving it from May 3rd, 2024 to July 26, 2024. What do we know about releasing films at the end of July? It's typically the time that you release to the graveyard because kids are going back to school. That first week of August, it's over. You're going to lose out on your teens, your preteens, etc. You lose out on so many of the college students who are busy going and registering and all of that. They don't believe in this film. They didn't put it in August because that would say, really, I mean, there's no way to avoid it. But July 26th is essentially, that's them saying, well, we'll let it die on the vine. You think that's true?
I think you're right. They have no faith in their Captain America reboot. So
I think that's fair to say at this point. Thunderbolts is going to December 20th, 2024, and that is bold. That is extremely bold, very bullish on their part. I don't know how that'll go over, but Thunderbolts, not a title that I'm anticipating doing well, and they are sending it to go battle at Christmas. So we'll see how that plays out, but the opposite of Captain America Brave New World, they're putting that up at one of the biggest times you can possibly lay a movie out on the calendar.
They might be counting on the fact that they've got a decent cast for that film. Now, if they still have to write well in order to utilize that decent cast, but maybe they're counting on reviving by actually bringing in some people who have acted before outside of Disney.
Love it. Then we've got Fantastic Four. Well, let's do Blade. Blade is supposedly coming out February 14th, 2025. That is not a confident release date to push it to. Fantastic Four to May 2nd, 2025. That is, but again, folks, these kind of get, the farther they go out, the more we don't believe in any of them. Let's just say it. And so I don't even really believe there's a point to going into this other stuff. I mean, I'll give you an example why. Avengers: The Kang Dynasty is moving to May 1st, 2026, supposedly, right? Well, who's going to be the villain? Kang is currently in trouble, right? Kang is currently doing all kind of court issues, so we don't even know who Kang is going to be. Just leave that one alone. But let's talk about Star Wars. This is the most silly thing that we've got, and it really is. The article says, with the addition of a Star Wars film in December 2026, it means that 2 movies set in a galaxy far, far away will be released in that year. A separate Star Wars movie has been pushed from December 19th, 2025 to May 22nd, 2026. Another Star Wars film is set for December 17th, 2027. Disney hasn't clarified the premises of any of those installments. Jonas, run us through why we shouldn't believe a single thing about any of that paragraph.
Well, we just have to look at the track record of Lucasfilm releasing films since 2019, which is, forgive me, I'm trying to count. It's really hard. I don't think they've released anything in the last 4 years at all.
Yep, that sounds about right to me. So you think
they are a movie studio, correct?
Well, they used to be. But Jonas, we've got December 19th, 2025 going to May 22nd, 2026. And supposedly they're also going to have one December 2026. Now, my understanding was that we were suffering from franchise fatigue. That is why Star Wars could not produce content. We had to let everybody flush out the fatigue. Why are we going to 2 films in a single year? And why would Disney take on the risk that both of those flop tremendously and basically bury the franchise?
This can't be overstated. The fact that if you go through all of Disney's releases this year, Guardians of the Galaxy, Indiana Jones 5, Little Mermaid, Elemental, The Marvels, and I think there's one more, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. All of these have either been confirmed to be maybe breaking even, probably a flop when you consider the budget, the reshoots, and the marketing. So releasing a film is actually a negative for the company. So it is a financial hit every time they release a film. Star Wars right now is in such a poor spot that Mandalorian barely broke into the top 10. The flagship content on Disney Plus barely broke into the top 10. If they're using
subscribers, they dropped hundreds of thousands of subscribers during the same period of time that it came back with season 3.
Yes, and haven't helped them if they ever lose their attachment to Bluey. If the health of Star Wars on Disney Plus is any indication about public sentiment at the box office for Star Wars, they should not release any Star Wars films until they confirm that someone else is making them.
So let's talk about the other reason that it's just absolute nonsense. And we don't believe it for a second. And we don't not believe it because we just have some sort of emotional attachment to thinking that Star Wars will fail or Lucasfilm is lacking in their abilities. We believe it for logistical reasons, like real reasons that they can't get around. Jonas, they need writers to write all of their Disney Plus shows, and those Disney Plus shows are requisite to arrive prior to the Mandoverse movie, right? It's supposed to be the culmination of Ahsoka, of The Mandalorian, et cetera, they can't put the movie out until they finish the shows, and they can't make the shows because the writers are on strike. So from a purely pragmatic standpoint, this is nonsense. Agreed?
Absolutely. They have no idea. I'm just keeping track here. Yeah, and if anybody wants to go see an Avatar film 8 years from now, you might have been married and had several children by then. If you're a single person watching this video right now, just think how much changes in almost a decade.
Well, let's take a look at this tweet from John Landau, who says, each Avatar film is an exciting but epic undertaking that takes time to bring to the quality level we as filmmakers strive for, and audiences have come to expect. The team is hard at work and can't wait to bring audiences back to Pandora in December 2025. Now, I think that's asking a bit much, don't you? I mean, people waited a very long time for the second Avatar, and fair enough, it did quite well. But I just don't know how long people can hang in there if we're talking about this franchise stretching out 22 years from beginning to end.
That's the difference between the first Star Wars film and the first prequel trilogy film. Just to be clear. That's
right.
Enough time for an entire generation to forget.
And we're talking about just 5 films, so quite something. I do want to go to one more article talking about the Star Wars issue specifically. This out of The Wrap by Adam Chitwood. Disney to release 2 new Star Wars movies in 2026. The return of Daisy Ridley's Rey is imminent. And yes, we believe that actually that will happen because we believe that's an Iger initiative. It goes beyond Lucasfilm. It goes beyond Kathleen Kennedy. But the timing of all this is completely nonsensical, as we've said. But here's the article. It says the Star Wars movie drought will soon be over. Lucasfilm and Disney announced on Tuesday that 2 new Star Wars movies will be released in 2026. One on May 22nd and one on December 18th, which will mark 7 years since the release of the last Star Wars film in theaters the trilogy capper, The Rise of Skywalker in 2019. And of course, it goes back to talking about how Charmin Obaid-Chinoy is directing that feature, the Rey movie we're talking about. And we've covered her in the past. She is quite the firebrand. She has all kinds of very anti-male positions. Now, perhaps she can clarify those in the future, but I do find it odd to listen to somebody who talks about the joy of striking fear in half the population. It's an odd thing. But I'm just curious on this one. We've got the James Mangold thing down here. Jonas, I'm thinking that James Mangold might have a harder time getting that Star Wars project going, given what we're seeing out of Indiana Jones, the Dial of Destiny, and its projections. I don't think that anybody comes out of this forthcoming Indiana Jones situation looking good, and I think that a shakeup that we've discussed before is forthcoming for Lucasfilm. And therefore, I think that this goes beyond just the nonsense of these dates not even being real. I don't know that anything outside of the Rey movie is actually coming in a way that we might suspect. Now, the Mandoverse movie, surely at some point they'll do it, but I think new leadership has got to be coming in. And at the very least, I don't think that people like James Mangold are going to be given the keys to the kingdom of Star Wars. What do you think?
I think you're probably correct. And James Mangold is a fantastic director, has directed some of the best films of the last 10 years. For him to be in a position to where he has to rely on Lucasfilm to give him his next project, I think that speaks ill of his talent. I don't know what's going on with this production, that he didn't decide to leave and do something else, or if Indiana Jones was supposed to be a stepping stone so that he got to do his Star Wars film, because as most people in the film industry have been influenced by Star Wars, it's a dream for many of them to be able to do it.
Until they get there.
Right. Until they realize who they have to answer to and how difficult that's going to be.
The dream turns into a nightmare.
Right. The signing of James Mangold to another film within the house of Lucasfilm before he moves on. I think we're probably going to see something more like, Poker Face, or a supposed trilogy that never happens. I'm talking about Rian Johnson, and the fact that Rian Johnson keeps having to reiterate, no, the films aren't canceled until everybody stops asking. I don't think the Dawn of the Jedi is going to happen.
Here's what I think is going on with this James Mangold movie, and this really is kind of funny. I think that Lucasfilm may have asked him to do both the Indiana Jones movie and the Star Wars movie, and that him agreeing to do the Indiana Jones film, probably for a huge amount of money, had the caveat of, also we're going to stick you with the Star Wars project way down the road. And for Lucasfilm, that's good because it makes it look like they have a big director to come back into Star Wars. But I bet that they had to do that because they cannot find anyone who wants to direct a movie anymore, because the legacy of Kathleen Kennedy at Lucasfilm, the stigma that has been attached to that studio, is that is where directors and writers go to die.
Phew. You said it.
So I don't know that this is going to happen. I think most of this is complete nonsense. I do want to wrap this conversation up, though, talking about the impacts of the writers' strike, Jonas. This is the beginning of what we're seeing. Of course, other companies out there are going to be struggling with the same need to shift the cadence of their content, and it gets much, much more difficult if the writer's strike continues, because this will then play out into a huge drought for potentially 2 years of content. Disney seems to be trying to manage it, but we'll see how that goes. But Jonas, I'm curious your thoughts on if the writer's strike continues, what will these studios be forced to do to try to stay above water?
Well, I don't think anything is going to be coming from Lucasfilm because they are a completely scripted company. The last time we had a writer's strike, we saw a focus on late night television, and Conan did well with that, but I don't think anyone else did.
We found out Conan was the only guy who was actually funny on his own.
Yes. And I don't count on any of the current late night hosts to survive without a writer's room helping them out.
You think we get into re-releases in theaters where they just start putting out old movies and maybe put out some sort of upgraded content to try to get audiences in there?
Well, there you go. All of a sudden, the 3D versions of Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back and in Return of the Jedi that are on lock. I've heard stories of people at fan conventions that have actually seen 3D screenings that are Lucas approved, not just Lucasfilm, but George Lucas approved 3D screenings. Hey, maybe that's the light at the end of the tunnel here. We'll have a re-release of all these special editions that never saw the light of day. I guess not a re-release, but a release. That'd be
There's the
fantastic.
silver lining. I don't think we'll get the original Star Wars trilogy, though. I don't think the original cut is ever going to return, but hope springs eternal.
Well, you can't have a rebellion without hope. That's
right. As Star Wars fans always say, there's always a new hope. Well, Jonas, that's what the studios are going to have to be doing. They're going to have to be clinging onto hope because they need this writer's strike to end. It's going to get far worse. This is just the beginning. Major reshufflings. And again, folks, we're here to tell you not to believe these articles, and we've laid out why. All of this is contingent on when the writer's strike ends. And in the case of the Mandoverse movie, we all know that they cannot make that, surely, until they get the shows done, and they can't get the shows done until the writer's strike is concluded. So all of this is basically just PR and a combination of trying to get their slots in case they can possibly make them. All right, Jonas, where can people find you on this great, big, beautiful web out there?
Well, you can find me here Thursdays 5 to 7 on the Pro Show, or I'm an artist. I'm an investigative journalist at That Park Place, and sometimes I like to draw pictures. Or you can find me on my channel where I host a series called Everything Woke About, where we go through content that's out there that may be trying to push a little too much messaging, but you decide.
And speaking of pictures, Jonas, did you not draw at one point a baby chicken that got 4 gold stars in kindergarten? I believe I remember that story.
It was 4.5 gold stars, and I was the belle of the ball at nap time. I don't know where I'm going.
Nobody tell him that the 5th half star was just sort of a reject star that the kindergarten teacher said, we got this left over.
It was an extra starfish sticker.
There you go. All right, folks, if you like content like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and you can stick it to the algorithms. When you click it, we're talking about the notification bell. As Jonah said, we have the Pro Show live Thursdays, 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. You do not want to miss it. We are here with a huge panel of experts all the time discussing the latest news. And folks, if you're not yet a member of this channel, you might consider doing so. We've had quite the conversation, a long-format conversation with an Activision Blizzard employee from the past who is sharing with us how Activision Blizzard went down the path it has taken and has found itself at the bottom of the barrel. We're releasing that first to members, and then we're going to release it over time to all of the general public. So if you want to become a member and check that out, it's the price of a soda. All right, the conversation here has concluded, but the commentary begins. Drop a comment down below and tell us what you think. Are any of these movies actually going to make their deadlines other than Deadpool, which probably will? Let us know your thoughts down below. And wherever you are, whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
Make sure to catch the Pro Show Thursdays 5 to 7 Eastern Time. Entertainment Explained, The Culture Curve Conquered, live with Pro and all his friends.